3, 2, 1, activate.
Hello and welcome to Behind the Scenes of Robot Carnage. In this episode, I'll be going into how the arena is set up, how the cameras are positioned, and showing how each fight is edited. Let's dive into part 2 of Behind the Scenes. I had to think about how the tournament was going to be set up. I had 16 competitors, and taking inspiration from other shows made me think to have a redemption round in each heat, as the robots should get a chance to prove themselves in the arena. I settled on 4 heats of 4 machines with 2 moving on from each heat. The semi-finals would work the same way, and the grand final would be a simple knockout round with a play-off to decide third place before the final battle. The 2 competitors from each heat were split apart for the semi-finals, so they wouldn't clash again unless they met in the final. This seemed like the easier option going forward, so I divided the bots into their heats and began setting up the arena.
So I've been mostly using just 2 cameras. I've got the main one which looks down onto the arena from the bottom, or from the end where the pit release button is, and I've got another one that sits at the corner, and that looks down, showing where the pit release button is, but it also looks almost directly at the pit itself, so you get a better view of when a machine goes down.
Once the cameras were in position, it was time for battle. Many of the bots were Hexbug toys, so there was no real issues when it came to swapping them out. But because there wasn't enough transmitters and electronics, some of the real robots had to be stripped for their internals for battles they were in. It would have been really expensive if I were to get electronics for every single machine, so I kept it simple and just swapped parts as and when required. I had also made the rule later on that spinning weapons were to be plastic only, as they could be damaging enough to take off armour. This was due to the Tombstone vs Sparks fight, when the bar spinner ripped off the armour of the front hinge flipper and was forced to drive into the pit to protect the battery. It took around 2 months of filming to capture all of the battles before taking the footage to the computer.
So when it comes to the editing, I don't just edit everything all together, I do it in stages. So like, for example, I will start off by doing all the fights, or some of the fights. Once they're recorded, I put the footage onto my laptop and I edit that fight. Once that's edited, that's that done out of the way, and then I do that with the rest of the heat. So we'll take this fight for example. So we've got Petrify and Katrina. So as you can see, this entire block here is just the fight on its own, the full edited battle, which is done with panning and just a lot of quick shots switching from each side of the cameras, and of course doing in this the replay, slowing everything down. Try and get to that. There we go. There's the other side. A little bit of a spin. So all that's happening. So all of this is all just the fights. So you can see here, even that's one fight, that's Mousetrap and Arnold A. As it goes across. So that's that fight all there. I would also do the same with the intro as well. So that gets made after all of the fights have been edited, and I've picked like some moments. It doesn't have to be the best ones, but just like ones that might be a little bit more engaging. And of course we'll have the title card coming up. And then this is where everything is sort of pieced together. I've done the blocks for the fights, and then everything else goes on. Then you'll find here just where the fights are, if I can find it. There we go. This is all the commentary. So I would actually commentate as the fight goes, so it's live commentary. But I don't do it for like the little pieces off the fights, so like the narrations and whatnot, and like talking about it. So like, for example,
2. Upgraded since with a better drive and a stronger ground claw. Fighting also is the Mousetrap with its swinging.
So I would film that completely separately. So then it's just a case of just adding that in, so everything is pretty much edited and all ready to go, and then all it needs left is the commentary. So then once that's all pieced together, I would add in the commentary,
drive, bouncing Katrina up so she's upside down. And when she is, she's trying to escape.
And it has caused some problems, unfortunately. Sometimes the sound doesn't come through the same and I have to edit it, but that's the main sort of idea. And then once all of that's done, I make sure that everything is all pieced together. I watch it through like this, then go up here, save it, export the clip, watch it again to make sure everything is fine, and then once that's done, then I've pretty much finished that episode and move on to the next one.
A few weeks later, I had the 7 episodes ready to go. I timed it so each episode would go live on Friday 7 PM GMT like the original Robot Wars did. The show gained some popularity and it would give me the incentive to maybe make another series if it was asked for. I put together a 3-episode spin-off to test out some ideas on some new builds. Once they were posted and took in the feedback, I made plans for Series 2.
One of the things I wanted to do for Series 2 was to make an actual lowering pit instead of just having the open chasm that was there. I was looking for ideas and I did think about maybe having like a simple trap door where you hit a button, the whole thing opens and swings. So I went around looking to see what I had and I found I had a small linear actuator. And then after a little bit of trial and error, I decided that this was going to be what lowers the pit.
With the upgrades made and new competitors and replicas built, such as Mousetrap and Shadow of Napalm, 24 machines were ready to go, with 12 of them given seeds.
And here is Ice 2. And you wouldn't actually think that this champion machine was actually the result of a failed print. Because the initial idea was that this gap was actually meant to hold a spinner, the blade for a spinner. This part here at the side was meant to actually hold the brushless motor, but yeah, the print ran out of filament halfway through and I was left with this. But I kept the shape anyway, and this was made from another failed print that I had that I just cut out, and yeah, put this together, and this was added in as a last minute entry to Series 2.
The heat format would remain the same, but the semi-finals would need to be altered due to 12 robots making it through. The decision was made to have 3 1v1 fights, and then the 3 losers would go into a 3-way redemption round to find a winner. 2 knockouts afterwards from the semis would give us the 4 grand finalists.
Not everything is smooth, and the pit, especially in Series 2, liked to malfunction. We would hit the pit button, it would go in, you can clearly see it went in, but the pit wouldn't go down. And we ended up a couple of times we had to stop the fight just to make sure the wires were all okay, and then the pit would actually lower. But it really depended on how well the fight was actually going. Do we restart the fight if it was a little bit boring, or do we continue the fight as is just once the pit was down?
More time was spent behind the computer doing the editing while slowing down the commentary since it was far too fast for the last series, and the second tournament was ready for showing. I found out each episode was getting commented on within days of being uploaded, saying how much they were looking forward to the rest of the series, even saying which bot they wanted to win in the series. The show attracted attention from quite a few people within the community, to the point that some even reached out to me, asking if they could put one of their own robots into the show. I would consider it if there was enough interest for a Series 3, which it turned out there was. I would be in touch with some teams who happily donated a robot for that series, such as Team Freyfox, Team Mott and Bailey, and even Antway Anarchy's creator, Team Penny. Because I wanted less Hexbug toy modifications in Series 3, the weaker ones were removed completely, while others like Rotator and Disco Inferno were left in, as they might manage against the new bots I was creating. The Axbot toy Xerox only remained because of its high seeding. It was now mostly purposely designed robots with new replicas added to the roster. Atomic was given an upgrade, and I even handed in a Granny's Revenge replica for comedy purposes, also because I was asked to make it. The pit button was now completely rewired and would work whenever it was activated. Some other small changes were made, like the camera angles being altered and having the sidewalls being covered with industrial tape to prevent it from being ripped, and we were ready to film Series 3. 36 robots this time. 8 heats with 4 in each, and 2 moving forward, meaning 16 semi-finalists. 2 knockout competitions until 2 are left from each, and they move on to the grand final. This would also be the first time I would introduce trophies for the show, and asking the viewers to vote for the winners for each award after the second semi-final was aired, and then adding the results into the final episode. Series 3 would end up being the most engaging series so far, as it would be the first series to be shown as premieres. It was great to see the work we put in being watched live by others, and reading the comments during and after the episode had aired. As the series went on, more and more people tuned in. People wanted to see more from the show, and wanted to know what would happen next. Join us next week for the final part of Behind the Scenes, where we discuss the current plans in the works and what the future holds for the show going forward.